This is Charlie Parsons for the Stomping Ground, powered by Wow Hydrate and available on DAZN. I actually think, Kalle, is this your first time on the new outlet, the Stomping Ground?
Stomping Ground. I love the name. I love the name. Yeah, it could be. Could be. I don't know. We've done so many over the. I was going to say over the years, but that wouldn't be true, would it? Because over the years, you would have been still at primary school. Yeah, over the months, we've done it on various platforms. I mean, but the Stomping Ground. Love the name. Good luck with it, Charles. Fantastic stuff.
Stomping Ground's a bit of you, right? Old school football.
Bit stomping ground, exactly. Bit stomping this, stomping that. Stomping the cat. Lovely.
Got to ask you, we're going into the Euros. I know you used to love doing a little England away day and that. Are you
Yeah.
making trips out to Germany?
Um, I'm gonna go undercover Sunday. I'm there, Serbia.
Are you?
Yeah, so
Love.
that's gonna be fun. But yeah, no, I remember the first tournament I went to was it was obviously Euro, I think the first one I can remember properly was Euro '96, but then it was France '98. That was good fun. And then there was, of course, was the Holland Belgium one, Euro 2000. Remember the days of the Hackett shirts, the good old days. Those, England away, always a good laugh. Always a good laugh.
Let me pick up on that then. I suppose we are a multi-sport channel, so I can ask you this a little bit. You've seen it over the years. You've seen some great squads not quite have enough in them or whatever it be. I know that sort of you look back to sort of maybe that first little period, 96, 98, where obviously we know that the United players would only stick with United players. The chemistry wasn't like it was. Some big omissions from Southgate. No Maguire, no Madison, no Grealish. There's a few more in there as well. Do you think, I mean, we've always got a chance, but we've got to sort of
Mate, listen. Look at 2010, right? That squad 2010. From the Beckham, Ferdinand, Lampard, the whole team, Rooney. It was like a multi-billion-dollar team. It was by far on paper the most expensive team in that World Cup. Forget the names; it's about how they gel. And Madison. I love him. Tottenham, obviously, but his second half of the season was
yeah.
no way near at a level to play at the Euros. Maguire, okay, he seems to put it off for England, but yeah, and not so much in a red shirt. But I don't. I think it's a great squad. I think I'm going to have to bite the bullet here and, as a Tottenham fan and say, look, Declan Rice is going to be super important. I think sort of Bellingham, he's going to be a key player. He shines, we shine. But yeah, gung ho. Forget Iceland. Forget Iceland.
Oh,
Forget all
mate,
the Iceland.
that was pony. That was
You know,
pony.
it's but it's good to go into a tournament not in too much form and to pick up the form in the tournament. So that's often we've gone into tournaments and we've been bang on form. And it hasn't worked, obviously. So it's maybe good that we get the ice and stuff out of the way beforehand, and we're
Before
going
it
to go
starts, yeah.
nice slow start against Serbia, 2-0 Serbia, and then pick it up from there. That's how I see it going. And then obviously the 14th of July, I think it is. Got the flights booked.
Have
Looking
you?
forward to that. I have, yeah,
Will
yeah,
you go
yeah.
regardless or just if England make it?
No, just a thing to make. I'm not that big. For football, I've got to have a vested passion.
England, yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's got to be a vested passion, or else I'm a bit a bit lost,
Well, I like that. Let's hope we make it there indeed, because I'm sure there'll be many of us in that same boat trying to get out there for the final. Let's talk about where you are right now, Bolton. Abass
But
Baraou.
it has a link to the Euros, because don't forget, Friday night it all kicks off. Scotland versus Germany, right? The second that game finishes, you want to get that remote control, right? Hopefully you haven't had too many beers at that stage, but you will find the number 5 button on that remote. Channel 5, Scotland versus Germany, rerun, Boxing Zone, very little replica model of the Euros. We
Ah,
have Germany's Abass Baraou, who is the European champion, taking on Scotland's McGowan, Macaulay McGowan, an absolute Rocky style story, labourer by day, fighter by night. Don't let that fool you. He's an absolute top level fighter. I was talking to Anthony Crawley yesterday about him. He knows him very well from the gym. So it's going to be a hot fight, live and free on Channel 5, around the world, of course, on DAZN. And so Friday night is sorted. Get the beers in, football first, and then we got the boxing live on Channel 5. And watch out for Lerone Richards. He's one man we mark for a world title in the next 12 months. And I would say also someone who has been overlooked a lot. He's come off a lot of inactivity. We've signed him up now. He's going to be very active, and I can't wait to see him out as well on Friday night.
Kalle, let me ask you, Chloe Watson, I've seen she's on the card. At one point, for a little bit of talk around her fighting Maisie Rose Courtney. What's the situation there?
Well, that's the next fight. This is to get her out. That's the next fight. I think Nissa's talking a lot with Frank Smith around, when that fight's going to take place. We love a head-to-head with Matchroom. We've had many over the years. I worked out yesterday, I thought it was Froch Kessler 2 was the first one, but actually I'm going to claim Hay Harrison as well, because we were working with David at the time, of course, and Eddie was working with, that was the first time I met Eddie, actually, was working with Audley Harrison. So, I think we've got to be in our 30s now, must be around the 30 mark of the fights. Paul Smith versus Arthur Abraham, Martin Murray Abraham, Zoiga versus Fielding. We lost that one. But recent times, I don't know, Wardley, Gorman. So there's back and forths. I'd say it's pretty close. It's certainly not a Queensbury Matchroom situation of 25-0, but it is. It's pretty tight. It's pretty tight.
You mentioned the whole Queensbury Matchroom situation. Eddie quite gracious in defeat. What did you make of it? It was a good night of boxing.
Yeah, he's a great actor, isn't he? He's a great actor. He's a great performer on social media, and he's a fucking great actor. He's definitely earmarked for Hollywood. Let's put it that way. Gracious in defeat. God, I can see through him. No, but I know the feeling. So I always try and be gracious in defeat. Nissa is not so gracious in defeat. You can read Nissa. Nissa's the worst actor in the world, because you can see all over his face when he loses. He's the worst loser in the world. We all are. But yeah, some of us can hold it together and some not.
Let me ask you, obviously 2 weekends in a row in Bolton, I believe. You've got Lyndon Arthur, right, next week?
Yep, Liam Cameron, yep.
Liam Cameron is the opponent. I have to say, when I looked at that fight initially, I was like, right, Sonny Edwards has got to be involved somehow here. I know he's good friends with Lyndon.
He always pops up. He always pops
up in the mix, doesn't he? I know, obviously, Liam Cameron's in the gym with him. I know he gets on with Lyndon Arthur. Talk to us a little bit about getting that one over the line.
Look, I mean, Lyndon's obviously had a few months off following the B-Vol fight. I don't see that as a loss. I see that as a learn. Fighting. We talk about now Usyk #1 in the world pound for pound, but people are so fickle, they forget about B-Vol. Absolute mustard, and to share the ring with him for those 12 rounds would have taught Lyndon a lot. Listen, that light heavyweight scene, and he's got a very, very tough fight with Liam Cameron next week. It's a headliner on Channel 5, so we have to come up with something that the wider audience wants to see. There'll be a couple of million people watching that next Friday. So it's a cracking fight, but there's a lot on the line, because there's a lot of good fights to be made. Dan Aziz, Anthony Yard, Josh Buatsi. You've got that sort of mix there. Willie Hutchinson had a great win as well over in Saudi. So that there's a real that whole light heavy scene is in the UK is popping right now. Let's be honest about all of them. I mean, there's Bivol and Baturbiev, right? And And then there's the UK scene, and that it doesn't take anything away from it. It's a great scene, and it's going to provide some very fun fights. So I see sort of, you know, Liam Cameron as a very, very tough man for Lyndon to show what he's learned in that fight and hopefully come through it.
And great, I suppose we know his story. It's very well documented, but the fact that he's come back to this position and landed a big fight like this, that's what the sport's all about, right?
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. And it's, you know, when he took the risk of the Bivol fight, we all knew what we was going into. He did have that moment where Bivol was shaking. He did have that moment. I won't forget that part. But of course, you know, Bivol put on a masterclass, and you know that's difficult to find answers to. But you learn from it. You learn from it, and we will see exactly what next Friday. But again, a lot on the line because there are those big fights being made on the domestic scene, and you know it's very exciting. But both cards massively stacked. By the way, look out for Dan Toward this weekend. Yeah, people are talking about
fighter, right?
Yeah, Sam Jones is, I know, up and down the M1 with his Dan Toward bus, so I've got to do my bit as well. Look, a lot of people talk about who to watch in British boxing right now. Watch Dan Toward, you know, this week on Channel 5. He's got a TV slot. It's only his 4th professional fight. Watch Dan Toward. Remember the name Dan Toward. He won 10 English titles as an amateur, right? 10, not 1 or 2, no, 10, right? This kid can really fight. Watch Dan Toward. Remember the name Dan Toward? I know I've said that 5 times in about a minute, but people have to remember Dan Toward.
That's how they remember it, Kalle.
Absolutely. Keep on saying Dan Toward.
Tyson Fury had a little video circulating now. I think me and you...
Disgusting, tasteless, revolting. Don't need to ask me too much about it, mate. We've all been there, right? Come on.
That's what I mean, right?
Fuck off. I hope he digs out the fellow who's filmed that. I'd like to see Tyson get him in a room. I'd like to see Tyson get the fellow who took that video in a room and ask him about it. And by the way, listen, you see Tyson Fury out, no harm. That's part of being a celebrity. You're getting filmed, right? That's part of it. There's another part of it, like you show your mates down the pub. Oh, I saw Tyson Fury. He's fucking off his rocker, right? Look at his fucking video. Again, you know, that's this day and age. Fair enough, right? But putting on social media, nah, mate, come on. For what? What? Like, the guy who put out, did he have a YouTube channel or something? Is he monetizing it, or like? You know, it's what's he doing it for? Oh, you know, like, no, don't get it. Tasteless, but you know, it is what it is. You know, that's all I'd say to it.
I think I'm in the same boat as you, Dan. I mean, we've all been in that position many a time.
Yeah.
We can't sit here now, take the hierarchy and being like, you know, he's just off a long camp. Ridiculous, really. Some of the comments that people are making. Yeah.
But it's, for me, it's more about like that you're filming him is one thing, right? But you're then sharing it to a public audience. It's not your mates. You're not putting it on your mates' WhatsApp chat, whatever. You know, oh, I saw Tyson Fury pissed last night. No, that's one thing. But you're putting it out in the public domain. You know, I think that's for me, old-fashioned word. Don't hear it much these days. Tasteless.
Fair enough, Kalle. Josh Kelly, what's the situation with him? Are you able
PBK?
You able to enlighten us?
Not quite yet. I don't keep saying that, but it is very big, right? So later this month, all will be revealed, but it's an absolute barnstormer. You know, it's an exciting time. That 154 division's absolutely lit. It's a weight class that's always been exciting, especially on the other side of the pond, you know, especially in the US. But now you've got a real blend of characters in there. I mean, we've got Abass Baraou, by the way, as well this weekend. He's 154 European champion. He's number 2 WBA. But if you look internationally, like, this is Josh's time to rise and shine. Yeah? And, you know, the fight we're working on is a really big fight. Now, when I say big fight, I mean it's also important to everyone knows in the UK who's been around the scene knows that Kelly is one of the most, if not the most talented amateur that came out of that Olympic team at the time. He's an extremely talented fighter. He's obviously had his ups and downs in his career, but he's come through in recent times. Like, just look at the performances, start with obviously the Troy Williamson fight, but he took it on last year, a couple of great wins, and has got to #1 in the world. So he's now in that position where it's time for the hard work to pay off. And the fight we're looking at is going to, I'd say, put him more on the mainstream radar. Everyone in boxing knows about Josh Kelly, but it's about the mainstream radar in this sport, and that's the sort of fight, without giving it away. That's the sort of fight we're looking at. But the vision's super interesting. Obviously the big fight the Saudis are putting on in LA in August. It's fantastic. What a show again. I mean, I saw everything that this is just simply incredible. The mix of boxers, the promoters they're all working with over there, fantastic to see. But like, you see Crawford, and I'm a big fan of Terence Crawford. I think fantastic fighter. He's also a good role model for the sport. And he's the man to beat in that division. That's fact. So that's what we're aspiring to. So I'm taking away on it. It's not Crawford next. We all know that. So was talk about that, and at one stage it was almost ordered. So it's a fight that's definitely down the line. But there's so many interesting fights in that weight class.
Eubank Jr. obviously parted ways. Just able to say any more now? As a bit of time gone.
I mean, look, a great. What was it? Great 9 years or something. 8, 9 years. Like, when I say great, sports full of ups and downs. With some great wins, some tough times as well. But good things come to an end, and we're very happy to reach an amicable agreement with him. And wish him all the best. Him and his team at Nova Sports. Much love and good luck.
Lastly, before I ask you about the crazy world of Misfits, Anthony Joshua versus Daniel Dubois looks like the fight that we probably will see.
Great fight. Great fight.
Share the same with me there. A good stadium sellout, right? 2 Brits coming at it for the heavy. Well, maybe for the heavyweight title. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's sort of got shades of Luis Bruno. It's if it gets made, it's a very interesting fight, because both fighters very differently, but have massively improved in recent times. So AJ, we all know the story, Olympics, quickly became IBF world champion, great fight against Vladimir Klitschko, blah, 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 blah. And then, got into the rocky patch and has clearly regrouped with Ben Davison. I think he's done a great job. I think it's credit to all the different trainers he's worked with, but I think Ben Davison has sort of fine-tuned that right now. But most importantly, AJ seems in a great space. And then you've got Dubois, who 90% of the boxing world wrote off during lockdown against Joe Joyce in a fight where many said he quit. Now, for me, the Usyk fight was a proof of that he was improving, and you can talk about the low blow, not low blow. I think we've all done that. So I'll quickly move on to the Miller fight. Now, the Miller fight, for me, much more interesting than the Hrgović fight or the fight against Usyk, because he had to dig very deep, in very deep waters with a heavyweight who was hitting with a lot of shots. A guy was, what was he, 300 odd pounds or something. So clearly shots that were, let's put it this way, they weren't exactly mosquitoes flying off the bonnet, right? They were proper shots. He dug deep, Daniel dug deep and put on a hell of a performance. And I've got to say, really impressed me that night. Really impressed me that night. He's obviously done a proper job on Philip over in Saudi recently. I had it as a 50-50 going into it, so I can't be surprised if it's a 50-50 beforehand. But I do think that Philip, he needs to readdress like his preparation and the way he does things.
Would I be right in saying, and you may not comment on this one, and that's fair enough, but when I look at Filip Hrgović over the last couple of years, it seems pretty flat. There doesn't seem to be that sort of incline and progression as such.
Okay, I mean, I could go into a 2-hour monologue here on this, but it also is a result of the politics of boxing. So don't forget, he was called mandatory for the IBF. I don't know, I can't remember, what was it, 2021 or something, or 2020? I can't remember anymore. And when that happens, you're mandated to fight for the heavyweight championship of the world. You've got a final eliminator. He can't fight anyone else at that point. Right, so he has to go with the IBF route. He couldn't find an opponent, and we, together with Eddie, tried everything. We won purse bids. Michael Hunter, won the purse bid, and he wouldn't sign the contract. But like, he couldn't make it up. So he had an inactivity. So if you look at the fights that he took in that time, it was very limited. And you look at a guy whose his whole career as who boxed the amateurs and the sort of pro amateurs with the World Series of Boxing. Everyone knows how tough Filip Hrgović is, but his activity had gone. So I think that's he'll probably blame that on Eddie, me, and God knows who else. But ultimately, that's the system of the IBF. Yeah. So you can't, and I'm not even blaming the IBF for it, because ultimately I am sort of, because they've got to look at the top 10. If you refuse a position in the top 10, you have no right to be in the top 10. And currently, they've knocked them out for 6 months out of the top 10. They should be knocking them out for like 6 years. But coming back to it, we've digressed here. Inactivity, and probably not much through fault of his own,
The IBF just seem to be like, for example, you see the Canelo mandatory, and then obviously we've now had the belt on the line for the vacant one, but then will it still be on the line for the undisputed rematch? I mean, they're a bit, I know boxing fans have problems with sanctioning bodies. Me as a neutral, when I go to the pub and my pals are asking me, oh, why is that belt there and that belt there? You can sort of understand why they have those questions, right?
Yeah, I can see it. I mean, to be fair to the IBF, they are the ones who sort of stick to the letter of the law. And that, I think, sometimes sends shock decisions when they say, well, they're stripping this champion. But that's the way they do it. And then there's others who maybe, they look at situations more pragmatically, and people don't understand why they're ordering this champion and that champion. So, yeah, they're quite different. They're run in a very different way.
All right, 2 more from me. We saw Jake Paul, Mike Tyson postponed till November. Looks like he'll fight Mike Perry now. I don't want to talk about the Mike Perry fight. For me, Mike Tyson be 58 when he gets in that ring in November after a few health scans and whatever. Your thoughts?
Well, I wasn't mad on it beforehand, and after health scans, I'd say, I don't know. Are they postponing it to find a new opponent? I don't know. I just find the whole thing it's just odd, isn't it? I called it. I said that this is going to take place in the summer, so I'm going to stick to that. So I'm hoping it's going to take place in November either.
And then KSI goes again in August in Dublin. I cannot wait. By the way, right, I'm just going to say on the record, if I don't get you down to Temple Bar for a couple of Guinness that week, I'll be absolutely gutted.
We will. We'll definitely have at least a couple.
I hope so.
Mate, we're buzzing on that show. That KSI returns August 31st in Dublin. The big man picked it himself. We had the choice of London, Manchester, and Dublin. We've rocked Manchester, obviously, last year massively with a prime card. We've done the O2 in London, so it was time for Dublin, baby.
I'm here for a bit of Dublin.
Yeah, me too. And then the card's massive. Mams is working on a massive card on that. And it's really busy times for Misfits. It's incredible. The numbers of Misfits for the last, actually not the last show. The last show had our record numbers in the US with Paige Van Zandt, Elbrook, but the show before that, the Salt Pappy show in London, did the highest numbers we've ever had on Misfits. So it's only 2 years old, but it's always great when you see these curves of and it's phenomenal. We've got a lineup for. There's another show coming, by the way. You're not going to want to miss this one. It's in a very exotic location.
Don't say with the Ibiza Dreams back on.
No. Well, we're going to see. It's not Ibiza. I've categorically ruled it out, but it is super fun. It's the place has been done before, but it's just imagine Misfits there. It's going to be wild.
Brains on that one off the recording.
Yeah, you're going to need to get your tickets for that, because this one here. You need your flight tickets booked. You need your suntan cream out. This one's wild. That'll be earlier in August. Then we've got September, October, November, and December. So, madness.
Well, big dog Kalle Sauerland, thank you very much for your time. All the best in Bolton. And we'll briefly speak to you off the recording. Final message to the people ahead of this Friday.
Just tune in, Channel 5. Straight after the Scotland-England game. Scotland-Germany game. Straight after the game, Scotland versus Germany, European Championship, live on Channel 5. Abass Baraou versus McGowan. Tune in.
Up the Euros, up the boxing. Happy summer, everyone. Bosh.
Up the Parsons.
My man.